to the Prepared Mind channel and another Board of Truth presentation. We're going to be talking about the value of gold, the value of silver, precious metals. How do they fit into the shit hits the fan scheme of things? This is going to be an interesting discussion. It's come about as the result of thousands of hours of studying gold, studying money, studying history, thinking about just what is going on around here, right? So I know a lot of folks say, hey, who cares about silver? Who cares about gold? You need to be prepped. And I'm going to say, this is your decision to make. You're the expert in your world. I'm the expert in mine. None of this is financial advice. It is all up to you. This is just information to think about to make your decision. But yeah, you know, what do I think I need first? I need food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, a means of self-defense, and a plan. Those things come first. And if you have any money left over after you're all totally prepped for the shit it's the fan potential in your world, then should you consider gold and silver? Should you or not? I don't know. It's up to you. But let's have a talk about the value of gold and the value of silver. And before we get into it, let me just say that Saturday, high noon, Pacific Standard Time, here on Patreon, the Prepared Mind channel is going to do our live broadcast where we do what? We do questions and answers. So get your questions into Jolene. Do it on Patreon. Do it on Facebook at the Prepared Mind. Do it any way you can to get those questions, and we'll have some interesting surprises for you on Saturday. So, without further ado, let's get into shit it's the fan, the value of gold and silver. I do like doing the Board of Truth. The thing is this takes, believe it or not, a lot of time. Time is a commodity of mine that's hard to come by, and I enjoy spending it when I can do this with you guys. So I hope you get as much value out of it as possible and as much thinking out of it as possible so that you can decide what is best and what you can do. So, you know, when I do have some extra coin, you bet I like to buy a couple of rounds of silver. It makes me feel good, right? Anyways, I want to start with, we're talking about the value of gold and silver and what it is. Gold and silver was originally constitutional money. That is, the value of gold was set, 1 ounce, $20. The value of a silver dollar was $1. It was valued at a ratio of 20 to 1. And because of that, because the dollar was pegged, to use a modern term they like to use, because the dollar was set in stone, right, at that value, there was no inflation. In fact, as the industrialization of the world happened, goods could be produced for a little less effort because of industrial techniques. So there was actually a little bit of deflation when you look at it. But still, right, a loaf of bread cost, let's just say, 1 silver dime, 1/10 of an ounce of silver. In 1789, when the Constitution was signed, and 100 years later, what was 1 dime worth? Right, the same thing, 1 loaf of bread. No inflation. Your money was safe. The value of your wealth, your labor, your everything, your income, it was safe. Today we have something completely different. The Federal Reserve wants at least 2%, 3%, inflation every year. Why? You're stealing my money. You disincentivize what? Savings. It promotes what? Spending, debt, bankruptcy. Where is our country today? It is fucking bankrupt. Thank you very much, fiat money system. The opposite of what gold and silver is. So, let's get into this. Let's talk about the value of gold. Does value equal the cost of what it costs to produce something? So right now, gold is valued at $1,250 an ounce. Silver is sitting at $14.70. I've got it here at $14.50. It went up to $70 today, then back down to $60. Let's just call it $14.50 for the purposes of discussion. Why does it cost that? Well, right now, because the prices are suppressed. They do not want you They don't want investors looking at precious metals as a way to preserve their wealth. They don't want them to look at it as a safe haven. They don't want us to have that. They want to take that away from us. They've suppressed the price. Right now, gold and silver, on average, are being sold on the market for what it costs to produce them. Silver especially. Gold, there's more profit in gold. But silver right now, depending on the type of mining scenario, whether silver's a byproduct or it's a primary silver mine, you're going to have to say, yeah, it's right there. It can't go any lower. As it is, the mines that are producing silver for less than it's selling for, they're selling at a loss. They're treading water. They're buying time. I don't want to say what I would do if I was the mine manager, but be that as it may, we're bottomed out on these prices. So they go, well, it's only worth what it is because of the cost of production. It shouldn't sell for more than it costs to produce. So I've got an example to talk about. Well, if the value of gold is it should be sold at what it's cost to produce, well, let's talk about phones, smartphones. What do they cost to produce? For real. What do they have in them? Well, there's a handful of sand, makes a silicon microchip. What does that cost? Less than a penny's worth of sand in every phone. How about the piece of glass that's the cover? Well, again, that's silica sand. It's made into glass. It's very inexpensive, especially on an industrial scale. That's worth a couple of cents. How about the steel that goes into making the case, or the aluminum? Or what are the metal components that are in there? Minimal amounts. Pennies and dimes we're talking about. How about the little teeny bits of silver and copper and other types of metals that are in there? It's just pennies. Pennies to produce the materials that make a smartphone, an iPhone, a Samsung. It's pennies. Well, you go, well, what about the labor? Well, you got to factor that in, John. Well, okay, yeah, you've got all these great machines, and they just set everything. There's so much automation there. What does it really cost to produce an iPhone or a Note or a Galaxy? What does it cost? It's tiny, tiny. So I've heard estimates. Oh, it costs $50. It costs $200. Really? That's what it costs to produce one? I don't think it even costs that much, especially not in materials. And in China, where they're assembling these things, how much labor do you think those people are being paid to put together one phone? Done. That person gets what? $5 an hour? Maybe? Maybe? It's China. You have people that are so despondent, so upset, so depressed that they jump out windows of factories to kill themselves. And what do they do in response in those factories? They put up nets to catch the people who jump to try and kill themselves because they're not getting paid shit to make iPhones. So when I say, well, an iPhone or a Galaxy made in China, it's going to cost somewhere between $50 and $200. Well, yeah, you got to pay off the local authorities. You got to pay some sort of taxes. Okay, so that takes the cost up. On the top, $200 to make a cell phone. That's the cost to produce. Well, what's the new iPhone going to sell for? $1,200. So, if we're on the high end, that's 6 times more valuable. The cost to produce is not what they're selling it for. So why is it that precious metals need to be sold at what the cost to produce is? That's what they're valued at because that's all it costs. No, they make an incredible profit. Now, if I am closer to being right, that when you really get down to it and you leave the machinery and bullshit out of it, what does it cost to make one phone? The sand, the glass, the steel, the little bits of metal in it. It doesn't cost shit in materials. It doesn't cost shit in labor when you break it down. So if it's $50, what is 50 into 1,200? You bet. 24 times. They're making 24 times profit on a phone if it only costs $50 to make one of those phones in China where they don't pay their people shit, right? So, does the value of something equal the cost to produce? No. So why is it that gold and silver need to be sold that low? They don't. They should be able to mine gold and sell it for what it's worth. They should be able to mine silver and sell it for what it's worth, right? So value is not what cost is, right? The value of something is not its cost, it's its value. So Gold, $1,250. Silver, $14.50. Now, right, what do I got here? 1 ounce of silver, 1 troy ounce, 999 fine silver. It's got the Marine Corps emblem on there. I carry this with me every day, everywhere I go, to remind me this is an ounce. This used to be $1. Now it's $14.50. But what does it take to get 1 ounce of silver? Right, this is a pin I have. It's the only gold I've got on me. It's the only gold I have. Right, it's a gold pin with gold foil flakes in it. Right, what does it cost? How do you get 1 ounce of gold? On average, to get 1 ounce of gold, you've got to mine 16 tons of ore. A ton is 2,000 pounds. 16 times 2, it's 32,000 pounds of ore, meaning rock and dirt. In order to get silver, which is produced 9 to 1, but for the purposes of discussion, we'll make it 10 to 1. Instead of 16 tons, it's 1.6 tons of ore. If you were to go to a gravel pit with a pickup truck, and they have a scoop on the loader, they have a 1-yard scoop, which is supposed to be roughly 1 ton. A truckload of rock and gravel is 1. Just to get silver, 1.6 tons. To get an ounce of gold, 16 tons. To give you an idea of the scale, the mass of what it takes to get an ounce of gold or an ounce of silver, the amount of material that has to be blasted, moved in a haul truck, scooped with a giant loader, moved in a giant haul truck, sent to the refinery, where they go through a complex refining process. Then they take that finished product, it goes to a mint, right? Where they add value to it by what? By stamping it into a beautiful coin, whatever that coin is. Now, if that coin is minted by the United States Treasury, by the mint, it's an American Silver Eagle. If it's gold, it can be either the American Gold Eagle, which I don't particularly care for, but I do like the American Gold Buffalo, which is 24 karat or 100%, 999 gold. Right? In Canada, when the Canadian Mint, the Royal Canadian Mint, puts their stamp on it, what does it become? It becomes a silver maple leaf, and they also have a gold maple leaf. And so you pay a premium to get the American product or a premium to get the Canadian product. They add value to it. It becomes believable. You can't just pull one of these out and go, oh yeah, that's silver. If it's minted by a government, it's more believable. It's more easy to trust that it's real, right? So you have these things that add value to it, right? But that's what it takes to get silver and gold. You have to go to the ground. You have to beat the hell out of the ground and get it out of the ground. You don't go to a creek these days and get a pan and start panning and find an ounce of gold in 5 minutes. Right? You have to dig thousands and thousands and pounds of ore to get 1 stinking ounce. So, let's talk about an hour of human labor, shall we? If you work at McDonald's in California, odds are you're going to get $15 an hour. $14.50 for an ounce of gold right now on the market. You add, let's just say we're going to do a round, which is a non-minted coin. So it has a lower premium, and it comes out to about $15. 1 hour of labor equals 1 hour of silver. Does it really? Not when you think about getting a shovel out and a pickaxe and beating 1.6 tons, 3,600 pounds of ore out of the ground, and then somehow moving it, and somehow refining it, and somehow smelting it and boiling it down and compressing it into a tube and slicing it into coin-shaped things, and then pounding the shit out of it to make it look like an attractive, beautiful coin. And then selling that for $15. Oh, but John, by all means, it's the industrial processes that make it so inexpensive. Well, why is the phone that is made so inexpensively cost us so much? Well, it's the technology. Really, the technology is what goes into making precious metals come out of the ground. Otherwise, you'd have men with pickaxes and shovels and wheelbarrows without that technology. So what is the value of gold? What is the value of silver? Well, it's being right now sold because banks who have anywhere from 100 to 500 ounces of paper silver. A paper contract. Oh yeah, this says I have silver in the vault. This says I have gold in the vault. But they'll sell hundreds of these to every 1 ounce that they really have in their vault. Basically, what you've got is a hyper-deflationary paper game being played in the market to keep the value of gold and silver low. So it is uninteresting to investors, so that instead they put their money into the stock market where they're told they're going to be rich. But every 7 to 10 years, we have a stock market collapse. People lose 50% of all of their wealth. And they're told that that's acceptable. I tell you what, next stock market collapse, you see that? That is 1 ounce. When the market collapses, I'm still going to have 1 ounce. Why is that? Because there is no risk in owning this. I own it outright. All of the energy went into making something so valuable, so beautiful, that it has both monetary and industrial purposes. Gold and silver both have monetary and industrial purposes. Silver more so. Silver actually has, it is the second most useful item on the planet. Oil being the first, silver being the second, used in a variety of applications everywhere, including being used as money, a store of wealth. You send your money, your cash, your currency, your fiat paper to the stock market, it can be devalued overnight. Literally, you go to work, you get off work, you look at what? You go watch MSNBC and they tell you how broke you are because the stock market collapse just happened every 7 to 10 years. And guess what? We are due for it now. Anyways, if you think about the amount of effort, does 1 burger flipping hour of labor equal 1 ounce of silver or 1.6 tons of ore management and refining? How about gold? Can a kid work in a fast food restaurant, flipping hamburgers, sweeping out the storeroom? 100 hours. Is that the same as moving 32,000 pounds of ore out of a pit up to a refinery, shipping it to a mint, having it stamped and certified as pure, and then distributed and sold? It's comical, right? Gold is unattainable in reality when you think of it in terms of man hours that it would take to produce. But man hours that it would take to buy one is ridiculously small. In other words, right now, while the market is in the middle of having a shit fit on Wall Street, while the housing market out here is topped out and is now coming down, while General Motors is removing manufacturing plants, while Ford has said, we're not making cars anymore, while Verizon is laying people off, while company after company is cutting back in the one season when retail is supposed to boost everyone and make money for the year, while the economy is faltering, are you going to leave your money in Wall Street, in your bank? Are you? Where if inflation doesn't get it, a bank closure will. And by the way, if you're a depositor, you've made a loan to the bank. A deposit is now a loan. And when it comes to bankruptcy proceedings, a depositor has the least amount of claim on any of the bank's assets. That is, other creditors own that bank. You're the last one to get paid if there's anything left. And if they're fucking broke and bankrupt, there's nothing left. You can lose money leaving it in a bank. So that is why I have chosen that if I have a couple extra dollars at the end of the month, I'll buy a couple of coins. I would much rather have my money in something real. Right? Real. Hey, 1 ounce. Than to have it in a piece of paper. That today, this is worth $1,000. But it can drop 50, 60, 70, 80, 90% by tomorrow. Why would I do that to myself? Now, we are talking about the value of gold and silver. We've discussed how much it costs. And does cost to produce equal value? No. How much labor goes into getting it? And is it equal to what we can do in this ridiculously, you could say, overvalued labor or undervalued precious metals market? Right? Is gold fairly priced by history? One of the arguments I hear is that, well, gold has retained its value, but it's no more valuable than it was 100 years ago. Well, what did we have 100 years ago? They go, oh, no, gold, it'll still buy a good suit. So that's what we hear, right? The common example is a good men's suit equals 1 ounce of gold. And I go, really? Is $1,250 a good suit? Well, a modern suit is industrially produced, meaning it's fast, cheap, easy to produce them. It takes less energy. It takes advantage of industrial farming, industrial milling, industrial cutting, right? It's not the same human energy that, let's just say, way back in 1789, when the Constitution came into effect, and they valued 1 ounce of gold. It's not the same amount of energy and effort that it is today because of industrial production. So back then, when someone said, hey, that's, this is the good suit, they didn't have gradations up and down. You got what the common man got, and there's a good suit. So when we say, what does a good suit cost? We aren't talking about an industrial produced suit. Now, all of the suits I have are industrial produced. As far as I'm concerned, they're cheap. It doesn't matter that they cost $1,250. Whether I bought them at Dillard's or Men's Warehouse or Joseph A. Banks, those aren't good suits. They're a usable working man's suit. What is a good suit, right? By today's standard, a good suit is a silk suit that is made by a tailor the way it was in 1789. That's what a good suit is, where they cut it from whole cloth, where they measure every inch of your body so that the suit is tailored to fit you. That is a good suit, made out of the finest quality materials, made out of the finest everything you can think of, right? Using the most skilled labor. When you're a multimillionaire, when you're a multi-billionaire and you go to get a suit, do you go to Joseph A. Banks? Well, maybe if you want. But if you think about all of the CEOs on the planet, for every corporation, right, there are CEOs. There are tens of thousands of people making millions and billions of dollars. While we struggle along making minimum wage plus. Do you think that guy that makes $100 million a year, do you think he goes and says, just give me an average tailor with some average material? No, he goes and gets a good suit, which means the finest materials and the best tailors. And those best tailors and finest materials cost a lot more than $1,250. You're looking at an $8,000 suit, give or take. That comes with shirt, shoes, tie, belt, socks. A suit isn't a coat and pants. It may include a vest. It could be double-breasted. But you don't go in and say, give me a good suit. No, they fix you up with everything. The tie, the shirt, everything is the best. That is a good suit. We're talking about $10,000. Is $10,000 the same as an ounce of gold? Not now, no. We got cheap gold. It is undervalued. It is underpriced. It is suppressed. It is scary. Now people go, well, you can't eat gold, you can't eat silver. Like I said, this is only for people who have additional wealth. A few coins here, a few coins there, whatever they got. But right now, silver and gold, they're on sale because of the price suppression, because of the manipulation, because of the financial, economic, monetary system we have in place. Right? If you want a good suit, you're going to spend 10 grand plus. That's where an ounce of gold should be at, right? If it was fairly priced by history. It's not fairly priced. We know it's not priced based on the cost to produce. We know it's not priced properly on the amount of labor that goes into it. If it wasn't for the industrial means to get it, it would not be priced like this at all. Why take a risk going into a mine with all that equipment and personnel and all the other bullshit if you're not going to make something above and beyond what it costs to produce? That is the whole point of being in business, is to make a profit. And like the phone people, there's nothing wrong with making 6 times to 25 times profit, just like the phone people. The phone people are not gods. They're not that special. They're just people making a product that other people want. Right now, no one wants precious metals because they're unloved, they're unwanted, they're misunderstood what it is to have the store of value, right? This is my stock. It's for Nissan. Whoops, the Nissan guy fucked up. He's in prison. They just lost 50% because the guy that ran Nissan's an asshole. It doesn't matter if a guy who runs a mine is an asshole. My ounce is worth what it is. There's no third-party risk. This is a store of value. Now, people say, Bitcoin's a store of value, John. Oh, it is, really? Well, yeah, they've got all that energy and time, but how valuable is it? How useful is it? I can take a mountain and get tons of equipment and move that entire mountain from here over to here. And that's the proof of work. Look at all that effort and human time and money that's spent to move it. But I didn't produce a fucking thing. It didn't do anything. I just moved a mountain. Same with Bitcoin and these idiotic cryptocurrencies. You got a lot of effort into creating something that no one gives a fuck about and is not useful. This is useful. This coin. It's easily understood. It is 1 ounce of silver. It is understood. It has always been understood as money. Same with gold. In fact, I read an article today that just drove me absolutely apeshit. Had to do with J.P. Morgan has joined forces with the Bank of France, and they are trading incredible amounts of gold in a very, shall we say, clandestine fashion. The LBMA, the Bank of England, Bank of France, J.P. Morgan, and many, many, many other banks, they trade gold, but we're told it's a barbarous relic by Benjamin Shlomo Bernanke, former head of the Federal the Federal Reserve. He was the chairman. We're told that it's a barbarous relic, yet it is guarded. Their books are secret. No one can audit them. Why? It's just a barbarous relic. It's stupid, worthless metal. Yet Russia, China, India, Turkey, and Turkey sold some recently, Hungary, Poland, the United States is trying to get its hands back on gold. England will not give up its gold that is put on deposit at the Bank of England, back to Venezuela, back to Australia, another crown colony. Nations around the world are trying to acquire precious metals. Why? It's a barbarous relic. It has no purpose. It's cheap. It's garbage. Why wouldn't those countries buy stocks on Wall Street? Stocks in the London Exchange? Stocks on the GDAX? Why not buy stocks in the Nikkei? Why not buy stocks in China at the Shanghai Exchange? Why not? Because they're paper and they're bullshit. This is hyperinflated. This is undervalued. This is what the value of gold and silver means, right? And the reason that all of this is going on is to take the wealth from the people in exchange for paper, securities, equities. It's not money. It's not wealth. It's currency, right? So what has happened and what is happening? Gold and silver, they've been removed as money, and it has been systematically suppressed. It was removed as money, gold was, back in the 1930s when they made it illegal. People turned in their gold, not all of it, but a lot of it. Then they came out a short time later, and they said, hey, guess what? Gold is now almost doubled in value. In other words, the cash you have is worth half as much. They stole half the nation's wealth by stealing the gold. Then we get all the way up to 1971 on a gold standard. What happened? Well, Nixon took us off the gold standard. What happened after that through the 1970s? Massive inflation. Gold went from $35 an ounce up to $800 an ounce. Incredible. It dropped back, but it went up that high. Why? Because they were seeing problems with the economy, problems with the stock market. It was a bear stock market back then, meaning it wasn't good, right? It wasn't where you just put money in and they magically throw money at you every day. Not like these people that run through this bull market. They think they're fucking brilliant as investors because they put in $100 and they get 10%, 20% return. Well, they picked a stock. You can pick any stock in a bull market and they all win. They all go up. Because of quantitative easing, because the Federal Reserve is throwing cash in there. It's creating an inflationary effect because there's so much cash flowing that everything rises, the cost of a house, the cost of a car, the cost of these stocks. Everyone thinks they're wealthy. People have a house. They bought it for $100,000. Now it's worth $400,000. They made $300,000. They're rich. No, it's a hyperinflated value. And it's coming down now. There's going to be a big crunch and a lot of pain. So, gold and silver, it was removed as money. They pulled it away. There's no more silver coins. A silver dollar, if you can even find one, because they don't make them, it isn't silver. Right? Silver has been removed as money. Gold has been removed as money. Right? If you were to get a 1 ounce gold coin, it'll have $50 stamped on it by the United States Mint. $50 is not $1,250 that we see up here to buy an ounce of gold. Well, they're just stamping that. What's the difference? Why the dichotomy? Why this disparaging difference? Where you just go, why? I don't get it. $50, $1,250. And John, you're saying that an ounce of gold should be $10,000 or more. Right. That is because they have systematically suppressed the price, lied to us, stolen our money. In exchange, they've given you paper promises that it's going to be worth something in the future by having clever advertising and marketing, by saying everyone else does it, by keeping the interest rates so low you can't keep your money in a bank, right, and have 3% of it disappear every year and get nothing in return in interest. So you send it to Wall Street, your money, and they send you a piece of paper back telling you how rich you are. And then we have a stock market crash, and you're not rich at all. But people who have silver and gold, once they have all their other preps, everything else in line, they're going to go into this stock market crash. And they're going to have bought $14.50 silver, or $20 silver when it was a little higher, or $30 when it was a little higher, because they have systematically, since they started quantitative easing, brought the price down to the cost of production so that who can buy it? China, Russia, the governments, JP Morgan, other banks, wealthy people who see what's going on with the economy. They know what real money is, what the real value of gold and silver is. They know the real value of it. And they're not impatient. They're not impatient. They know they can buy it today. They can hold on to it for a year, for 5 years, for 10 years, and it's going to do nothing but hold its value. And when it's severely suppressed, the way it's been systematically suppressed with fake promises to pay for silver on paper, and you take one of that, you go, oh yeah, I got a silver contract, look at that, woohoo! You try and send it in and say, send me my silver. They just send you back cash and go, well, we're not going to deliver. They don't have to deliver when you buy a silver or gold contract because they don't have it. And for what they do have, it's being bought by nations and banks and wealthy people. They are the ones who are buying massive amounts. So what has happened and what is happening? Gold and silver is bought. It's bought. It's bought back every downturn when price goes up. So what do I mean by that? Silver and gold are bought back every downturn when price goes up. Just think about that. Mining reserves are dwindling. What do I mean by that? Mining reserves, well, there's only so much gold and silver. You can't go just dig dirt anywhere and extract gold. You can't get 16 tons of ore from anywhere and have gold just be in it. There are very few places, and trust me, geologists have been scouring the planet for hundreds of years, especially in the last 100, looking for ore deposits. And they start in the richest part of the mine to get the most out. This 16 tons of ore for 1 ounce of gold, it used to only be 5, 6, 7 tons to get 1 ounce. But the quality has gone down so much so that it takes 16 tons to get 1 ounce of gold. In other words, they have basically 2 grams of gold per ton of ore. And that's a gold mine. When people go, yeah, I struck it rich, it's a gold mine. That's a gold mine today. You can't do the work. It's too hard, right? So the mining reserves are dwindling. It was a lot richer, and now they're going to the outskirts. They're reaching and looking for more ore. Same with silver. It has dropped in the last 5 years approximately 50% in the amount of precious metal coming out per ton of ore. The mines are producing less per ton while the price has dropped. Can you see the problem with this? So, mining reserves are dwindling, and nations, banks, and the wealthy are acquiring precious metals at rock bottom pricing. What is happening? What has happened? The suppressed prices, lower quality, dwindling supplies. They're saying like there's 10 years, depending on how hard they go at it. 10 years, 20 years left. It means there's a finite supply, right? So what is happening? Nations are hoarding it, as I described. Hoarding it. Why? Because it's going to get harder to find, more expensive to mine, process, and deliver. And there's going to be less of it. While things like paper, one match destroys it, and there's no value there. So we can see if we can get there. Like I said, I've spent thousands of hours looking at this. In 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years, the value of precious metals, the real value, not the cost of production, the real value is going to go up and beyond. And there are a lot of people that talk about portions of what I've described. Their specialties are this and that. You can listen to Rob Kirby. You can listen to Michael Pinto. You can listen to Bill Holter or Jim Sinclair. You can listen to, if you care, to Keith Neumeyer. You can listen to a lot of these people. Listen to Kitco videos on YouTube. You can listen and learn all of these pieces. And when you put the picture together, as I have done for myself, I see what a tremendous value gold and silver are, how cheap they are. And if you're a prepper and you see the shit hitting the fan coming, you know we're going to have problems with everything. Money will be worthless. We're going to go to a hyperinflationary scenario at some point. We're going to start with inflation and probably go to hyperinflation because they can't print wealth. All they can do is print dollars. And the more dollars they throw out there, the less valuable everything is, the higher the inflation is. That's what's going on in Venezuela. And I recommend looking at the documentary that is on out there about the Venezuelan inflationary problem. Go look it up. It lets us know. And when we have a crashed economy and a piss-poor monetary system and a piss-poor financial system, all goods and products are going to do what? There's going to become a scarcity as mismanaged businesses fall prey to a mismanaged system, which results in no jobs, shit hitting the fan. That's why we need food, water, shelter, clothing, and medicine. That's why we need those things as preppers first. And if you are so inclined, take a look at gold and silver and see what it is that's there. Right? I don't have any precious metals company sponsoring me. I don't get a fucking nickel. I don't get a damn discount. Not at all. Right? I just know what they are, and I wish I had. Right? I wish I had a couple $1 million because I would probably buy this stuff. Right? And where do you put it? Well, you go out and do some midnight gardening, bury in the yard. You can take it to a custodial vault and pay money for them to store it for you. You can take it to a private vault, guarded by really large, burly, hairy men who have bad attitudes and lots of weapons. There's lots of different ways. You can hide it in your house by, storing it in your microwave, someplace no one would ever look. I know, put it inside of a set of work shoes, and they'll never be found by the entitlement class because they wouldn't dare pick up a pair of work shoes. All right. Anyways, this is my presentation on the value of gold. I hope you found it both entertaining and valuable. I hope I pointed you in a direction to help you do some research and understand it. If not for you to buy your own precious metals, to understand the system we had, why we're at the place we're at, what happened and what is happening. This is another integral part of why shit is hitting the fan. The people of the United States, the people of the world, have been swindled out of their wealth. They've had their precious metals stolen from them. And they've been offered poor, what I like to call piss-poor substitutes. The mediums of exchange, the currency, fluctuates. Look what's happening in emerging economies, or rather newly industrialized third world nations. They don't want to say that, newly industrialized third world nation. They want to call it an emerging economy. Look what's happening to Europe, because the dollar right now is being propped up by a higher interest rate, higher, still not high, but a higher than everyone else, and it makes their currencies less valuable. So their dollars or their lira or their pounds or their EUs or their yen or their yuan, they're less valuable in exchange, and it's crushing them. And the longer the dollar stays this strong, right, the more it pushes precious metals down and everyone else down in the world. Imagine swimming and going, well, this is hard work, but I got my neck above water. A strong dollar is like someone putting their hand on your head and pushing you under the water and holding you just under the water, giving you a little air and then pushing you back down. That is what is going on with the international monetary or currency crisis that's happening. Nations are being held underwater because they have debt in the US dollar, and it takes more of their currency to pay those debts back. The world is drowning in debt. Not just the United States, not just China. Russia is one of the nations that has the least amount of debt, which is incredible. Vladimir Putin is some kind of asshole, I guess, but apparently he knows how to run a fucking country. Europe is drowning in debt. Italy, especially. The debt that Germany has is incredible. The entire banking system internationally is shit. While they tell us we're broke, while they tell us we're in debt, they're going out and buying what? What the fuck are they buying? What is it that banks are doing? What is it that nations are doing? While they tell us we're broke and we have to pay higher taxes, what are they buying? Seriously, what are they buying? What are the wealthy people buying? When you find and listen to people that say, well, it's my job, and there's not very many of them, my job to procure bulk gold and silver for the wealthy clients I have. What do they say they're buying? Gold and silver. What are we getting? Well, some of the most precious metals we can get are copper, lead, brass, and blue steel. Well, like I said, once you're there, if you've got reserve income, maybe you ought to take a look at gold. Think about it, make your own decision. Again, this isn't advice coming from me telling anyone to buy this. Do your own research. Look into it. Think about it. And that is the fucking trick I can't get through people's heads. Think for once, not you guys. You guys are awesome. But the people I know on the street, I go, fucking think. Look around. What the hell is going on? Why did you just go buy a new car? Your old car was fine. Now you're in debt $30,000? You fucking moron. Don't you see what's going on economically? And they don't fucking care. Right? They're spineless jellyfish idiots who saw a commercial on TV, so they buy. But they're so far in debt now, even the people can't buy anything, much less gold and silver as an investment they hold on to and say, it doesn't matter what happens in the world, this is real. They're so far in debt now, they can barely service that debt while the economy is slipping down. We are going to see a bloodbath, and there's going to be fear. Fear like you can't believe. Anger like you can't believe. And people are going to lash out at each other because we can't just go downtown and say, would someone send me to a billionaire banker's house so I can go get my fucking money back? They're going to be long gone to other countries, hiding in the ground with armed guards, private security to protect them. Because they did what they did, and they know that they're going to be in trouble for it. It's that type of world. That is the shit it's the fan. And I'm not saying this is Mad Max. I'm saying if we have shit it's the fan like, these things are going to happen. The economy's going to crash. There's going to be shortages of food, possibly. There's going to be shortages of clean drinking water, possibly. There's going to be shortages of electricity, possibly. To greater and lesser degrees in different regions. It is just coming for us. There is no escaping it. It is becoming more apparent every day. And this isn't fear porn. This is me sharing the thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of research I've done, observations, speaking with people, listening to other people intelligently discuss this, and the many small minutia points out there, tiny little points out there. But they figured it out. They figured it out, and they're sharing their tiny points. And when you systematize those points, when you synthesize that information into a picture, you're no longer looking at one little light. Now you've got so much color, you see the mosaic. It is a picture, and that picture is not a pretty one. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for sponsoring. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for being there. Get your questions to Jolene so this Saturday we can have a nice sit down. And by all means, get prepared. Do the best you can. That's all any of us can do. Right? That's all any of us can do. So you guys be cool. Chance favors. The prepared mind is yours. Godspeed and God bless and Semper Fi.